Welcome to my channel, Madalena here. Today I'm going to show you how to cut a fringe. So this video is for newly graduate stylists or for any client that wants to know how to cut their fringes or maybe just to trim them. We're going to talk about types of fringes. We're going to talk about uneven hairlines, which those are really important, how much hair to include in a fringe, and how to train your fringe to sit in the position that you cut it. And obviously the tools that we need to achieve a nice fringe. Stay tuned. So let's see how many type of fringes we can do. We can do a blunt fringe, which means the hair is going to be cut across the forehead really straight. Now, this can also be a little bit more longer on the sides, or so this is more of a concave shape, or it can be longer at the front and shorter on the side, so that's more of a convex shape. So we also have the side swept fringe, which means you're going to have the fringes on the side is going to come from short into longer across your face like that. And then we also have the curtain bangs, which are the most popular now. So the hair will part in the middle and then it will be swept on both sides, really nice and even with a nice balance. Now, when it comes to uneven hairlines, those are very problematic because it can be very frustrating when you have like a cow sleek or widow peak or even baby hair that grows in a different direction than the rest of your fringe. So your cut is going to have to be adjusted depending on that. I also recommend not to use a lot of tension when you cut a fringe that has uneven hairlines. How much hair to include in the fringe will determine whether your fringe is going to be wispy or really full, and where the fringe is going to lay on your forehead, if it's going to come a little bit more into your face framing or not. So it's really important how much hair we're going to cut for the fringe. So what we normally suggest is to cut is to section a triangle. So the top of the triangle will be sectioned exactly where the hair starts. So the highest point of your head, that's going to be the top of your triangle, and then you're going to have the base of the triangle, which normally sits where your eyebrows are starting to arch. So that's the rule really. So the base of your fringe is going to be where your eyebrows are arching, and then the top of the fringe is going to be the highest point of your head. I'm also going to show you, so don't worry about it. Now, if the base is too wide, then the fringe is going to go into a face frame. So you need to make sure that your base is not going to be too wide. And also, you also want to make sure that the top of the hair, the fringe doesn't go too far up here where the highest point of your head is. So you want to make sure that you have a nice balance. And also, if you have too much hair, it's going to be very hard to manage because it's bulky and it just doesn't sit right. So how to train your fringe to sit in the right position? This is really hard if you cut your fringe for the first time. So if your hair has been parting in the middle or on the side for a very long time, when you cut the fringe for the first time, the hair has memory, so it tends to sit in the position where it was previously sitting. But what I recommend is making sure that the hair is really damp and wet. Use a flat brush and you just brush the hair forward, so you kind of train it to sit in the forward position so it lays into the new shape. At this point, you don't want to use a round brush, so I recommend a flat brush because you want to see exactly how the hair is laying. The moment you use a round brush, you're going to give a little bit of volume to the hair, and because of the growth pattern, it might not sit in the right position. So that's why it's recommended a flat brush. The tools we need when we're cutting a fringe is really important to have really good scissors, a comb. The wide part of the comb is actually used quite a lot when we're cutting fringes, is because we don't want to apply any tension, and obviously that will give us a more of a natural kind of tension, and it's helping us to have the hair in the position that is growing. Also, you want to have a clip. Another tool that we use is a flat brush and a round brush as well, depending on what type of fringe are you going to cut. But as a rule of thumb and a tip, always cut the fringe a little bit longer, so you allow for it to kind of bounce up in a position that it wants to sit. So always cut it a little bit longer than what you have in mind. And now let's go into cutting the fringe. So I'm going to start cutting the fringe now. As you can see, the hair is wet. That's really important. Make sure that the hair is wet. I'm going to show you where the highest point of the head is. That's where the highest point of the head is. And obviously this is a head block, it's a training head, but on someone's hair you would have to assess and see the density that you've got here. If the hair is really thick, then that might be a little bit too far back. So that is the top of my triangle. I'm just going to come down. Obviously with the training head I have no growth patterns at the front. So I'm going to go to the arch of the eyebrow. Let's pretend that we've got an arch there. Now I'm going to do the other side. I want to have a nice balance. Obviously on the training head, the density of the hair is quite even. Now sometimes it's quite hard to work on a training head, but in this case obviously we don't have the growth patterns at the front, so there's no cow slicks or widow peak or any hair that's growing. So I've got the base of my triangle and the top of my triangle there. I'm going to start by cutting bangs because those are the longest fringes that we normally do, and then I'm going to go for a full fringe, or maybe a swept fringe after, and the full fringe would be the last one because that's going to be shorter. So I would normally ask my client, where would you like the shortest bit to sit on your face? Do you want it where your cheekbone is, lip line, or your jawline? And then based on that, I'm going to cut the length. And I'm always cutting it a little bit longer. And then when it's dry, I'm going to refine it and maybe bring it a little bit shorter as well. So to begin with, so let's say the shortest bit, I want it somewhere where the lip line is, or maybe, yeah, where the lip line is. And then the longer bit, I want it to be where the jawline is, or maybe a little bit longer. So I'm going to cut the long bit first. Very good, and then I'm just going to part it a little bit here in the middle, and I'm going to grab a really small triangle here at the front. So that's going to be my short bit, so that's going to be where the lip line is. I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to connect the two by over directing a little bit on that side of the hair, so opposite side, and I'm going to connect this length here to that length here. That's it, and I'm just going to drop it, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm taking my guide there, and I'm just going to brush the hair opposite side. When I do that, when I over direct on the opposite side, is actually I'm keeping that length there, so that's what I do. I'm just going to come this way. I'm going to connect that length to the shortest bit there. Very good. This is it. And now what I want to do, I want to layer it a little bit. So I'm going to go in the middle. I'm going to section the hair in the middle. I'm going to go in the middle. And there's a corner there that I'm going to remove. And then I'm going to do the same here as well. So the moment I do that, I'm going to have a little bit of layering here so it's not that blunt. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side, over directing a little bit and removing that corner there. Alright, so that has got the same length. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to blow dry it and refine it once it's dry. This is going to lift, so it's going to lift a little bit higher once it's all dry. This is my swept to the side fringe, so the cutting bangs. As you can see, the hair when it's dry, it shrinks, so it's a lot shorter. The shorter part of the fringe is, as I said, somewhere where the lip line is, and then the longer bit sits where a little bit over her jawline. The fringe is layered, so you can see all the layers coming through as well. And on the other side, so you would have the shortest part of the fringe and then the longer as well. Now obviously I blow dried it forward, but as a tip I would always say cut it a little bit longer to what you want, because the hair shrinks. You also have the growth patterns as well, so you need to allow for that to kind of happen naturally. So these are my curtain bangs. So now I'm going to go for the side swept fringe. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to part the hair on the side now. So I'm going to section the hair on the side. So I'm going to move the parting on the side, I would say there. And I'm going to have to wet down the hair again. So as you can see, I parted the hair. We're still going to keep the triangle kind of shape of it, but the triangle kind of moves this time. So we're going to have the top of the triangle here. We're going to have the small bit of the triangle, and then we're going to have a really thick part of the triangle as well. So I'm actually, because obviously I had a different fringe previously, so we did a swept fringe, the curtain bangs, and now this one is a little bit different. But even in this case, you're still going to have like a slight triangle. So the top of the triangle is going to be there, and then you're going to have the base here, and then it goes that way. So I'm going to have a thick side and a side that is a little bit shorter. So I'm going to have to ask my client, where would she like to have the shortest part of the fringe? So if she points to, let's say, base of her nose there, then I'm going to have to cut it a little bit lower to allow for it to go from short to long. Yeah, and then this is what I'm going to do. So I can put my guide in. So I'm going to grab a little bit of hair there, and I can just cut it a little bit longer, just to kind of allow for the hair to lift when it's dry. And then I'm just gonna go in sections. So I'm gonna have the first section, and I'm gonna again over direct because I want to keep the length on that side. So let's see where my shortest bit is. And over here. And I can cut it actually in as many small sections I want really. So I'm going to show you where my guide is. Okay, I'm over directing, and I'm just going to cut from short to long. Short to long. And then when it falls that way, we're going to have a really beautiful transition from short into longer. I'm obviously going to have to section a few times because this is a really thick side. And I'll do the same thing, over direct. And then the other section. Now this as well, I can layer it a little bit, but before I do that, I'm going to go on the other side. So I want to make sure that the basis of the triangle is the same. So I will be cutting it exactly the same. I'm going to go from short to long on the opposite side as well, like that. And I'm going to refine it once it's dry as well. I might need to cut it a little bit shorter. Now I'm going to layer the fringe here as well. So I'm going to take a section and remove that corner there. I want it to be quite layered. And over direct to my previous section. Okay, so I'm happy with that. And I will be starting drying it now. this is how it's looking, the side swept fringe. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to use my wide part of the comb to refine this fringe. So I'm going to push it all on one side like that. I don't want to put a lot of tension, and I can see what needs to be cut. So this is refining the hair. I'm going to use a dip point cutting technique as well. This would be deep point cutting, just so it's kind of sits a little bit better, so it's not as blunt. That's it. And then when you push it that way, it's just going to fall really nicely. If I need to refine and the client wants it a little bit shorter there, I can always cut it shorter. And then I'm going to use the other side of the fringe. Again, using the white comb, the white part of the comb. I'm going to go a little bit shorter, dip point cut into it. That can be thicker as well, so if you decide, the client says, oh, can I have it thicker, you can do that, not a problem at all. This is for training purposes, so in this case I'm kind of deciding what I want to do, but obviously it's your client who will decide what they want. So now I'm going to show you how to cut a blunt fringe. This is going to be cut straight on the forehead, quite straight and blunt, so we're going to see a fringe like that. So as you can see, we've got a triangle there. We've got the base of the triangle and the top of the triangle. The top of the triangle sits pretty much where the highest point of the head is. So I'm just gonna try and see if that's the highest point of the head. That's pretty much. Now it might be a little bit more further, but that's about right. This is the top of the head, the highest point of the head. Now it's nearly there, so I feel like it could have been a little bit further. But how much you put in your fringe is all about judging the density of your client's hair. So if it's really dense and really thick, maybe don't go that far back. And if it's finer, then you can go further out as well, further in. If I have a client and not a training hair, I obviously check for unevenness at the hairline, so I need to make sure there's no growth patterns. I want it to sit a little bit over her eyebrows. That's where I want to go. So then I'm going to cut it a lot lower because I'm going to refine it once it's dry. And I'm also going to kind of let it kind of fall naturally, so I'm not going to pull it down. And I can see how it kind of spreads out a little bit, which is perfect. So I'm going to go a little bit over there, over her eyebrows really. So the first section is going to be here. I'm going to cut this in sections because it's quite thick. A little bit lower than where I want it to be. Just want to see how it's lifting. So I could go, I can see that it's lifting a little bit. I can go a little bit, tiny bit shorter. I'm going to cut a little bit more. I can also cut it when it's dry. So at this point, I just want to put the line in and then I will see. This is it, and I'm going to do the top as well. So it's quite a blunt fringe. Now if I want it to have a little bit of a bevel or a little bit of a layering, then I'm just going to lift it up a little bit. So that's going to give me just a little bit of a layer there at the front, because anytime you change the direction of where the hair falls naturally, you're going to create a little bit of a graduation and a little bit of layering. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use a flat brush to dry the fringe. This is how it's looking dry, and I'm going to show you what a flat brush is. So this is a flat brush. At this stage I'm not going to use a round brush because I don't want to lift the hair. So I want to brush it exactly how I cut it. So I want to see where it falls into the new shape, yeah? The hair has been blow dried now, the fringe has been blow dried. This is how it's looking after I cut it. Obviously it's a little bit longer, which is perfect because I didn't know if it's going to lift a little bit more or not. I'm going to have to refine it, so I think I'm going to bring it a little bit higher as well. So maybe just like half an inch or like a centimeter higher. Yeah, I'm going to use my white part of the comb again. I don't want any tension, and I'm just going to go blunt. So a blunt cut. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit shorter, always using the white part of the comb because I don't want to put any tension. If I'm using the other side, you'll see what's going to happen. I'm just pulling the hair down. You can see it there, there's a lot more tension. I don't want that, so just want to see how the hair is kind of sitting. I'm going to go a little bit shorter this time. So this is my blunt fringe. I hope you enjoy all 3 types of fringes, and if you really like the information that I shared with you, please share it with your friends as well. I'll see you in the next video. Please like, subscribe and comment in the bar below.